So, something important for this particular course um, that we won't touch too much on directly, but which I want you guys to kind of think about the relationship between, is how ethics relates to the other branches of philosophy. Now, to go through with this, um, I feel like we should further define a few terms. The first being morality, and then secondly, what ethics is more broadly conceived, outside of like specifically what it is to philosophy, kind of a general understanding of what ethics is as compared to morality. So morality is a personal or general value theory, right, regarding the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad, right? Um, Meanwhile, ethics is an umbrella term for the study of those theories, right? And since ethics is the study of morality, it is then in an important way the um, study of the theories of morality. Right? One way you might think of this is as it being a literal umbrella, right? With the individual rackets or arms that hold the shape of the umbrella together, right? Representing the various points in or the various theories, right? The total umbrella is covered by and connected to all of the various arms, meaning all the different theories that we'll cover in the course of this course. Right? Now, that's important to keep in mind as we continue going forward, especially as it relates to this question of how ethics in particular relates to the other branches of philosophy. Now, with ethics and metaphysics, it's kind of obvious that there are some metaphysical questions about morality or within ethics, and when you propose a particular um, ethical or moral theory, what you are in effect doing is also posing simultaneously a particular metaphysics, right? So some of the questions at the intersection of ethics and metaphysics include: is the concept of morality real or otherwise objective, or is it subjective? Is it something that we just create, right? Is it relative, as it were? Um, what does it mean to say that something is wrong, right? Is there some standard we're judging it against or whatnot? And importantly, what sort of world are we saying exists when we make strong moral claims, right? Like killing is always wrong. We're saying something about the world as much as we are about the action in that case. What is that? Um, Ethics and epistemology is also pretty straightforward, the relationship. The questions remain interesting and complex, but the relationship's straightforward, right? Remember, epistemology is the study of knowledge, so when we say ethics in the intersection of ethics and epistemology, we're talking about the question like, how do we know that something is right or wrong? Or how do we make value judgments at all, right? Because we're talking about how do we know that this is a value judgment or that's a value judgment? How does that relate to our systems of knowledge? Uh, is ethical knowledge anything at all like scientific knowledge or any sort of factual knowledge? That is to say, are there ethical facts? Are there moral facts? And how do we determine that something is a correct value judgment, if indeed there is a way of doing that at all? Right? Important to this discussion of what's moral or immoral is the discussion equally of how we know that this is the case, or at least how we judge it to be the case. Now, next on the list is the relationship between ethics and aesthetics. And this is the last one, because the relationship of logic to pretty much anything is the relationship of how logic flows into the form of argumentation for that thing, right? So we don't really need to focus too much on the relationship between ethics and logic. But for ethics and aesthetics, there are some interesting questions here, right? Such as, is something beautiful or ugly because it's right or wrong, right? Are there things, that is to say, can art be immoral, or is there a moral component to art? Um, does our knowledge of the artist's character wind up affecting our judgment of the art? Right? So if I showed you, like, if we didn't, so an example of this would be The Cosby Show. It's a well written, very well done sitcom, and it's genuinely wholesome and funny. But but knowing what we do about Bill Cosby and the rape accusations, people don't watch it. It's no longer in syndication on, I don't think, any channel, right? Um, Whereas it'd been in syndication for about 30 years by that point, or 20 years by the point the accusations came out. Um, so that says a lot. Like, the whole judgment of the show as a whole was that it became worse, right? Even though the show remains the same, it relies on a wholesome character for the central cast member, Bill Cosby. That's no longer there, right? Is that a fair judgment of the show that way? Is it an unavoidable one? Uh, Relationships like that are interesting to explore too, right? So a lot can be done with questions at the intersection of aesthetics and ethics, or epistemology and ethics, or metaphysics and ethics, right? Um, but questions of ethics interweave into all the other domains of philosophy, the main branches, in some form or another.